The ice section tends to be highly contested, especially during new servers, so here is an alternate lab that will always be available. The section I will be covering on this video is often ignored, unless the team is high level, at which point you start to require a lot more space of the ice section. But during a new server, if the common spawn is taken, which often is, this is an alternate lab we will do. But before I get into it, I must say this one is worse than the known version I already covered, in experience and also more difficult to hunt. The only times you will want to do this lab is if the other was taken and your team is holding on to praise, or if you are a bit higher level and the normal one is overkilled by your team. With that said, on this spawn you will encounter 3 creatures, bugs, squids, animated feathers, but also one pool with 3 envelopes. So you still want to stack up on ice protection, but as the Ike you need to have some earth protection to switch in for that pool. Now, offensively, you want to go with fire damage as all creatures are weak to it. In the case you have Inflame, you want to put that on squids for this lab. Even though they do take less damage than bugs from it, there is far more squids in general. Additionally, on the other lab, I wouldn't consider putting in dodge as the Ike, but here I would use it if it ends up being too hard. Also on the squids for the same reason as before. Because of this lab having more squids, the kill distribution is different and you end up killing mostly squids and bugs, with a few animated feathers, which might be better for those holding to praise. And with that said, let's start with the pain. Sorry, I meant lab breakdown. The first pool is by the stairs on the bridge. For this one, in the actual lab, you will be coming from downstairs, and then once up, the EK brings out the 5 monsters in the bridge south, and Paladin lures from the southwest. For this pool, the firebomb from the north needs to be careful placed or avoid putting one if you can, as that can easily block the creature's path. Additionally, the one that goes to the right can lure monsters nearby with just using a summon, but be aware that it's likely to find energy bugs in this pool. Whenever that happened to us, we will lure it to the northeast and trap it there with a poison bomb, and then it shouldn't come back. Next up, go downstairs and follow the path towards the northeast to set up here at this intersection. During this pool, at least for the first lap, you will encounter the librarian. This acts like a creature but runs away and does no damage. His spawning point is around this hole, and once somebody finds it, then he will run north, and usually gets stuck in the hole northwest. For this pool, as the Ike, I will lure the monsters on the hole with me to the pool, and if possible, grab aggro of the one book to the north, but prioritize the creatures from behind, because whenever I lose aggro of those, then my team will be at high risk coming in. As for the Paladin, he will lure the monsters out from the room to the left. In the case of an open PvP server, you could have 3 walls to the right side, and then everyone could safely be on that side while also allowing to lure more monsters. But for us, at optional PvP, we needed to rely more on bombs and give a space for the Paladin to move around. Next pool, go up north and into the first room you see, and then set up at the south side of the room. Again, if this was open PvP, you could place walls to the size of the box and the team could sit safely inside the exhibition, but that's not necessary since this pool doesn't have that many extra creatures. Next up, follow the path northwest into the first opening. EK should pick a bit further from the spot to grab aggro from monsters on the left, and then the Paladin will be able to go past further to bring more monsters. Additionally, the Druid needs to place the bomb closer to the wall because at least one creature spawns in these tiny rooms. Next pool, continue west, and here you will encounter the Librarian again. This is where he will always be, and you need to be careful with it blocking your path. Additionally, I often need to have an energy bomb ready to replace the fire bomb on the passage from the previous lab, or else the creatures wouldn't be able to follow me and switch to the shooters. For this pool, I have most of the creatures by the time I get to the spot, and the Paladin only needs to lure a few more from the corner. Then continue going south and similar as the previous pool, have an energy bomb ready to remove the fire and then settle at the intersection. This is where I will take advantage of the optional PvP server and place a magic wall on my spot. That way I could have the 3 creatures move around it, and I will wait for the Paladin to come with his lure from the east before taking my spot. But regardless, this pool does tend to get messy, since it barely has enough space to move. Also technically, you could be taking away some creatures from the other lab if they were luring this, but normally people shouldn't care about 2 or 3 monsters. Next up, go east, and this is where you will encounter the envelopes, so change your equipment as the EK before heading in. I will have them at the action bar ready to go with a few clicks to put in a Terra Amulet, Terra Helmet, Imbued Armor and Shield. The priority of this pool is keeping aggro of the envelopes, so the shooters are at less risk. But be aware that they don't walk over energy, so you can place some bombs for that. Additionally, you could add 2 creatures from the southwest, usually by luring them as the Paladin, and sometimes they walk in on their own, but it depends. If you're feeling at risk with the envelopes alone, then don't bother. This is just a pool that exists to allow the rotation of the lab. Next up, go southeast and settle at the middle. Meanwhile, RP stays a bit behind to lure monsters. And with that, you will be back at the first pool by going upstairs, hence finishing the lab. Now in terms of experience, I will say this is somewhere around 10 to 15% less than what you make in the other lap. In our case, it was on average around 5.3kk raw at mid 400 level range, but I recommend to spawn for level 500s or so, and at that point you could be making way more than that. We got to do a hunt with a better druid once, and at low levels 500s we got it up to 6.4kk, which was better than what we will do with our actual druid in the other lap at the time, so the lap does have potential to be as good as a regular spawn for better levels. Because in reality this lap is considered for high levels. At that point you need to do a rotation across the entire section and often combining two pools together, but that is something people don't do nowadays because even when pushing the spawn to that extreme, it's still worse than the alternatives of that level range. But to be fair, I tried it out a long time ago before a lot of things were changed, so perhaps it can be good. If I end up trying it again, I'll be sure to make yet another video for this lap, so consider subscribing if you like team hunting guides and more Tibia content. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to the guild Causality from Pulsera, to 9star and Tuna Hero for supporting the channel further.